Hi, I'm Jody Facina, Managing Director of Insight Strategy, and welcome to my Canberra Insights for the week. For those political junkies out there like me, this week in particular has certainly been a fascinating one, given that the Federal Parliament is back in session. In a big win for the federal government, they passed their $4 billion Jobmaker hiring credit this week through the Senate, which will see those aged between 16 and 29 or their employer receive $200 a week, and those aged 30 to 35 receive around $100 a week. This is all part of the government's ongoing response to the pandemic and their core objective of getting the country back to work. This initiative has certainly been welcomed by employers, and I'm certainly sure it will be welcomed by those that have been struggling to get back into the workforce as a result of the pandemic and them having lost their jobs. It looked like it might have been an uphill battle though, because Pauline Hanson had flagged originally that she was going to oppose the legislation, but in a last minute deal with the government decided to support the legislation, so it is now passed into law. So certainly another welcome initiative in the government's response to the pandemic. Climate change policy continues to bedevil the ALP, with Joel Fitzgibbon, the now former Shadow Minister of Resources, resigning from Shadow Cabinet over a reported bust up in Shadow Cabinet in an argument involving the opposition leader Anthony Albanese. Labor have continued to struggle to basically reach a balance in regards to climate change policy, which appeals to both their inner city progressive base and the need to win over voters in rural and regional Australia, particularly in Queensland and Western Australia and coal mining regions, where they see a robustness on climate change as basically a threat to their job. This is an ongoing challenge for the ALP, and for Joel Fitzgibbon, he felt that he could no longer stay in the Shadow Cabinet while the ALP continued, in his view at least, to present policies which he feels are untenable and will just not relate, in particular to seats like his in the Hunter region and to seats in Queensland and Western Australia, where the federal ALP need to win in order to have any chance to win government. Will the ALP similarly go to the next election with a robust climate change policy, which some in the Labor Party, say led by Joel, don't see of having a chance of convincing the voters they need to form government? Anyway, an issue that continues to bedevil the ALP and not one likely to be settled in the next little while. Former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has led the charge in launching a petition to have a royal commission into the Murdoch media. Now, this is obviously not going to happen, but it did result in 500,000 other Australians agreeing with him in signing a petition. What we have seen then is the Senate having agreed to a Greens motion to have a Senate inquiry into media diversity in Australia. While not as powerful as a Royal Commission, it is certainly going to shine a spotlight on the role that our media here in Australia plays and the impact it has on our politics. Other issues to be considered is the role of the big tech titans and their impact, like Google and Facebook and Twitter, and what that means for democracies such as Australia. Will the committee in and of itself overtly look at the Murdoch media? Probably not, but certainly the Murdoch media, as with other media outlets, are certainly going to be in the mix in regards to what does things like media concentration, media ownership mean in regards to the information that is made available to the Australian public, and whether there is actually a representation of the news or just opinion being provided by media owners to shape the outcome of our democratic elections. Certainly going to be a fascinating inquiry. Has a short reporting period, due to report back on the end of March next year, but I suspect this one's going to run a bit longer. It's certainly been a big week in federal politics in what has been an otherwise crazy year, but there's still 2 to 3 sitting weeks to go. But certainly something that is very notable. Scott Morrison started the beginning of this year in a horrendous position in regards to his response to the bushfire crisis across the various states. But he's certainly ending the year on a big high, given what he's seen as his more than capable response and that of his government to the pandemic. It will therefore be interesting heading into 2021 whether he continues to hold that trust and support of the Australian public as we go into what likely also to be an election year in the second half of 2021.